So I'm here with Christopher Kenna, who is the CEO, right, of Brand Advance, based in the UK.
Certainly am, yeah.
Yeah, and so I've been reading a little bit about Brand Advance. So you're the first dedicated global diversity media network. So tell me about that. What does that mean?
It means two things. One, what we do, and that is we work with brands, or at the moment, the government, and help them reach the other. So anyone that, the media that's on the outside of mainstream, so whether that's LGBTQ+, disability, gender, 50+, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, Latinx, African American, all of the different demographics, communities across Europe, in the US, we do as well, and globally, that are missed out by marketing, missed out by a media planner that tends to plan with mainstream media in mind. And then network, we have about 550 publications on our ad server, maybe a bit more actually now, reaching about 750 million monthly uniques. And yeah, that's across them different strands. And we help brands and our clients to reach them demographics.
Sure. So tell me why? I saw something on your website that I thought was interesting, and I want to discuss that a little bit, because it's something that we've discussed ourselves within LGBT media, and that is being blocked by searches, right? I saw that comment from Vice Media. So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So brand safety, the big buzzwords that brands have been using for a long time. What does that mean? That means when a brand goes to an agency and says, here's a lump sum of money, I want you to get my brand in front of as many people as possible, as many consumers as possible. But I want you to make sure you do it in a safe way. Here is a list of things that we deem would be unsafe for our brand to go next to. And by things, they're normally keywords or keyword phrases. Now, Vice Media did said their own, what they thought were the top ones being told to them to block. But basically, in the world, the top 6, it fluctuates, like COVID would be in there now. But over the longest period, the top 6 most blocked words are gay, lesbian, Muslim, interracial. Let me count. Gay, lesbian, Muslim, interracial, Black, and there's a 6th one, totally gone out of my mind. It'll come back to me. I'll come back to it. But there's the top 5 for you. But they are the most blocked by brands, and they block them because Black could bring you next to gang-related content on the internet. Gay could bring you next to an unsavory picture. Muslim could bring you next to an ISIS video. Loads of reasons that qualifies that word being blocked. Now, what that also means is media, 73% of all good news stories in LGBT media are blocked automatically, without question. Before anyone even has a look to see what they say, they're already blocked. Unless there's, and this is on the sort of programmatic scale. If obviously, if a brand goes direct to a publisher, then they bypass all that. But that's not where the money's spent. Tens of billions are spent in the avenue that's getting blocked by all of these. So that was sort of a personal mission. I'm a gay mixed race guy. I've got 2 kids. One of my kids is mixed race. The other kid is white. Both to the same ex-wife. I was in the military. I was in the army, and we were based in Germany, and my ex-wife is German. So my daughter came out with blonde hair and blue eyes, and my son came out looking like me. Lucky him. And so, to work with a client, working in an agency, I was in Mindshare at the time, and to have a brand, Unilever it was, give me a block list that blocks one of my kids but doesn't block the other one? No. Do you know what I mean? Because it's got interracial, it's got Black, it blocks me as well. It's got gay, but it doesn't block my daughter. And so, yeah, that was a problem.
Right. So how do you get over that? How do you get around that? And what do we do in LGBT media to sort of circumvent that?
2 ways. Yeah, no, 2 ways. One way, how Brand Advance has done it on a sort of large scale is we just built our own ad server, and then asked Brand, took all of it. Because basically the problem is, the reason they need to block them words is because the big wide web has got a load of bad and a load of good, and they try to get to the good, but don't want to go anywhere near the bad. But they need to use blocking words because they haven't really got sophisticated AI that can look at an article and say, actually, this is a good news article about black. There is contextual AI now. You've got like Mantis and stuff like that. But it's not good enough. It's not 100%. And no brand at the moment will even accept 99% safe. So they'd rather block a whole word and a whole demographic and rather than take the risk that this 0.1% their brand could go next to something that they don't want it to. So that's the problem there. The really simple solution, what Brand Advance did was we just I was commercial director at Gay Times. And I sort of went to Gay Times, Attitude Diva, Pride Media, there's thousands in that. And sort of said to them all, okay, I've got my own ad server. If you can all jump on here, then, all of the clients, they don't need to block the word gay because we know everybody that's on that ad server. It's our own walled garden version of the internet. So now you can take that word, take off the word gay. Now we've got Diva and Curve Mag and Lesflix and stuff like that. So now we know none of that's porn or anything like that. It is good news stories from the LGBT community. So you can take that word off because there's no chance of your brand going next to an unsavory picture, blah, blah, blah. And then, so that's what we did. We sort of rebuilt the diversity media internet on a different ad server. And now brands like Unilever and L'Oreal and Google, etc., that we work with, they now can buy at mass as well. Because one of the problems with diversity media, I'm talking though, do butt in if you want me to shut up. I'm a gobby English person.
Believe me, I talk a lot, so I'm giving you the chance to.
Okay, well, I'm going to take my moment. One of the problems with diversity media, whether it's LGBT or it's Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, or disability or whatever, is scale. Only together are they of any size enough for a brand to be half interested, to spend real money. They'll spend £5,000, $10,000, but actually to apportion 20 million quid a year to LGBT media, they need scale, and that scale does not come from one publisher. I know every publisher will tell you they can reach every LGBT.
I want to interrupt you here, and this is where you will have a little bit of understanding of who I am. I don't know. Do you know who I am at all?
A little bit.
So I was a publisher. I published several magazines, including Gaycation magazine. I was the president of the National Equality Media Association, which is a whole group of publishers. And now I'm the CEO and president of my own agency, Equalitas Media. And I have an advisory board of almost all the people that you mentioned. Marin Johns from Curve, Matt Skellerud from Pink Media, Jeff Hostet from Breakthrough Digital, Guy Ross from Visit Florida, Bob Wittick from Wittick Communications, Jerry Cunningham from Outfront Magazine, and the list goes on and on and on. Mm-hmm. And Orlando Reese. Do you know Orlando, who used to be the CEO of Pride Media?
No, I didn't. Only know Stuart.
He's the CEO of Pride Media until recently, and he just resigned. He is now part of my organization, and we're building the same thing that you're talking about. Two things. We're building a network of print publishers, which I think are going through a difficult time right now. We have a network of digital publishers for direct run-of-site placement, not so much programmatic. That everybody can handle that. Everybody's doing that. What we want to build is a network, and we have about 30 publishers as part of our network already for that. And then what I wanted to create, Christopher, and the reason why I've been following you and watching what you're doing over there is you can see the evolution in LGBT media, right? Pride Media, I think Out and Advocate are in serious trouble for at least in the print realm. They're in serious trouble. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to start bringing all of the top LGBT media leaders and some of the top LGBT business people under one roof so that brands or agencies that literally wanted to reach the LGBT market could make one phone call to Equalitas Media. Not only could we handle the digital side because of our alliance and our partnership with Breakthrough Digital, we can handle social media. We can handle influencer because of my relationship with Matt. I know you were on his show just recently because we were talking about it, and I talked to him yesterday. And then from a print side, we can place print in 100%, not 90%, 100% of LGBT media in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So what you're saying and what you said earlier is so true, and people don't realize it. You know, we've had it lucky with print media because that's a direct conduit to the communities that they serve. They already have the authenticity, the trust of their readers. But from a programmatic standpoint, one of the things that I was fascinated by was exactly what I saw on your website, that how much of our content, legitimate content, is just arbitrarily blocked, thereby stunting the potential growth of those websites. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What we're doing, makes sense is, okay, if you can't get them to remove those words because they're too afraid of getting one with the other, then let's just create our own pool where they can only get the safe part of the internet and they don't have to worry about getting, ISIS videos or porn or, or what have you.
Yeah.
Way to go. I don't know. Now with COVID, I'm not exactly sure how everything's going to pan out, but I do know that while a lot of other LGBT media people are sort of scrambling, trying to figure out what to do, we have been building and forming partnerships and taking advantage of the accessibility of these key players. And that's why I wanted to have you on. I know that we talked briefly with a couple of your people about doing something together, but I didn't really understand exactly what you're doing, and so I wanted to talk.
I'm always honest. It sounds like we're doing the same thing. Let's start from the truth. You've just mentioned, you're building exactly what we've built. One thing I would say that's been good, diversity, that COVID hasn't harmed diversity media. Our spend with all of the LGBT publishers, I'm sure if you know them all, they'll be able to tell you, has doubled over the last 3 months because diversity media, one of our biggest clients is the UK government. Every message that they want to get out at the moment, they want it in front of every eyeball. They have put particular money to side for Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, LGBT, etc. And because we're their agency, we've been fortunate enough to be able to make sure that all of the LGBTQ plus publications are getting some of that revenue. All of the publications you've just mentioned are all on that media plan at the moment. For me, it's just been unfair. It's been unfair that, it's over-indexing. If we're going to look at this, let's forget about it being the right thing and, good for brands to be speaking to the LGBT community, because everybody knows that anyway. They just should be. But let's just talk how they're talking in these companies' boardrooms. It's about the bottom line. And the bottom line is consumers, we're marketeers. Their job is to get a product in front of as many eyeballs as possible. That is what the agencies are meant to be doing with the millions that their clients give them. That's what the clients are meant to be doing with the millions that their consumers have given them to further their brand message, is to get it in front of many people as possible. Now, if you've got creative that's unrepresentative, or you've got keyword blockings that stop you reaching what is truly a not just an engaged but an influential demographic, it's nearly let's put COVID aside. The consumer spend for LGBT in the US is about $900 billion dollars. In the UK, it's 81 billion pounds. In Europe, it's just over 127 billion euros. Like, these are not little pockets of money. These are like billions and billions. So, yeah.
So this is one of the things that I've spoken about and I've given speeches about is we are one of the most sought after and desired demographics and markets in the world. And yet, we allow brands and agencies to place their brand dollars with us in the month of June, and then on July 1st, they are invisible. Like, we don't travel in December. We don't shop in November. We don't buy anything any time of the year, only in June.
Yeah.
And we've allowed this to happen because we've been marginalized as a community for so long that we think even getting a small crumb of the pie is better than nothing. And I'm telling you, Christopher, I've heard it with my own two ears from much smarter people than I am tell me at a speech I was giving that, hey, I remember when we didn't get anything and we had to send our magazines in paper wrappers and things like that. So the fact that these brands are giving us a penny on the $1 million they're spending is like, they think that's and that mindset is what I've been trying to change for. Secondarily, what you said, when you quote those numbers, you're right. Those aren't pennies. Those aren't small dollars. So why are we walking around like Oliver Twist, begging for, hey, sir, can we please have some more? We should be demanding.
Yeah.
Have the economic power and to demand a seat at the table. And yet, 90% of the publishers that I've spoken to have that same mindset. They are getting that one ad in during Pride, or that two ads during Pride, and that's it. And then the rest of the years are like, oh, well, we'll wait till next Pride. That is why publishers built their business around big pharma. That's why their publishers built their business around Pride revenue. 40 to 60% of their total revenue for the year comes through the Pride season, May through July. And we allow that. And what I'm looking at it from a business standpoint. We have a lot of economic power. We should be demanding.
Yeah.
Why are agencies that are non-LGBT representing diversity to their clients? Like they're not LGBT owned, or they don't have an LGBT division within their company. Connect. Are you familiar with Connect? Connect Meetings?
No.
Connect Meetings is a $1 billion company here in the United States. I think it's global. But Connect Meetings hired Equalitas to be their diversity arm. So we go to their Thrive conference. Here was in Puerto Rico. Now I think it's going to be in Las Vegas in October. And what they do is it's for travel specifically. They get CVBs and they get destinations to attend this conference. And I meet with 20 to 40 appointments while I'm there talking to them. Here's something I wonder if you know. Of the 40 appointments that I take during a 2-day period in chatting with CVBs, 95% or greater all want to reach the LGBT market. Almost 100% have no idea how to do so.
Yeah.
We should be in there raking in the dollars.
Yeah.
Like there are hundreds of agencies like ours, Christopher. There's us, you, Rivendell Media in New Jersey, and how this.
Yeah. I don't know any others. Do you know what you were saying about economic powerhouse as well? Here's a little fact for you. If you took all of the LGBTQ plus people and stuck them on one island, the consumer spend off that island, turned it into GDP, it would be the 4th richest country in the world.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
That's only from registered LGBT. So, like, you know, the US has a registered amount of LGBTQ. By registered, I don't mean he got tagged on their way in the country. You know what I mean?
But then if that's the case, then why? What is the answer? Why do we walk around and accept crumbs from these brands?
Do you know, sometimes, oh God, everyone's going to kill me for saying this. Okay. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. We just can't. Gay Times doesn't want to work with attitude. Oh, are they on the media plan? Then I'm not getting on it. well, come on, if you both do it, you can both reach 10 million people globally. Apart, one of you can reach 5 and the other one can reach 5. So that's the industry's sometimes its biggest problem. Is it just everybody's always felt in competitions, and now, you know, if you take any non-LGBT media, if you take in the UK, we've got News UK, so it's owned by Rupert Murdoch. He owns a few things on your side as well, you know. So brands in the UK don't just work with News UK or work with Reach, which owns the Mirror and etc. They work with both because they want to get every eyeball. You know, they want to get their brand in front. Whereas when it comes to LGBT media, it's partly the brands as well, and they know I gob off of them and do it at Cannes, or I'll do it to Mexico or whatever, or New York Media Week, where number one, they do what you said. They think that we're only gay for a month, you know, and I'm lucky because I get thought of twice in a year, Black History Month and then Pride Month. Do you know what I mean? They remember me in Black History Month, and then all of a sudden that's gone again. And then they remember me in Pride Month. 2, because inside an agency is so not that inclusive, not really. You know, because if you're LGBT in an agency, I think it's something like 70% go back into the closet when they go to a new agency. You know, these creative, wonderful places, Mindshare, Mediacom, OMD, whatever, are not so, they are good agencies, but because of that, there's no true representation in there. And without true representation, there's no one to ask why. So when a media plan's being put together, it's being put together by the same people. Even out of 1,000 people on an agency floor, you know, they're all technically the same person. They all went to a certain university, got to a certain level, you know, and if there's not much LGBT representation on that floor, then who's going to think to say, do you know what, actually, on that media plan for Wrigley's Extra, we should be thinking about the LGBT community on that, you know, and here's some suggestions of who to go and speak to, whether it's you, whether it's us, you know. So I think there's a massive education piece to the agencies. We do a lot. You do it a lot. You've got a talk show. I'm sure you're educating them now while they're hopefully listening. You know, the brands and the execs.
I'll tell you, Christopher, that they won't listen. One thing that you said is struck me, and I've given a speech on this, and it was, "We don't need enemies. We're our own worst enemy." That was the title of my speech. And because of all the infighting, the individualism, you know, the backstabbing, the gossip and drama and everything that goes with it. And so what I've tried to do is pull together these people and say, listen, let's act as instead of a whole bunch of squeaks, if you will, let's roar as a line together, a big sound, and demand that we get that attention. Now, whether or not it breaks through, I don't know. You know, I'm from New York, so I'm pretty direct. And when I get in front of these agencies or brands, I have no problem in asking for their business. As a matter of fact, I assume their business, and I've had a pretty good success rate with that. But the problem has been that individual publishers deal with agencies individually, right? So when I first became the president of NEMA, what I wanted to do was I wanted to take the 50 plus publishers that are part of that organization, and I wanted them to unite behind me and tell all brands and agencies, nobody can place in any of these publications or on any of these websites except through NEMA. They had to deal with NEMA. Well, the way the culture is in LGBT media is there's so much fear. There's only been one agency that has dominated the landscape for 30 years, and they were afraid of pissing them off. So now agencies circumvented NEMA and just went directly to the publisher.
Yeah.
And so I tried to explain, I said, listen, when you're one publisher by yourself in a small market, let's say, I don't know, whatever small market, in the United States, they can stomp all over you and they're going to give you what you said earlier. I'm going to buy a $5,000 full page ad, and that publisher thinks they hit the jackpot because they're getting $5,000. But together we could demand budgets, and budgets are in millions of dollars. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to get their budget so that I could place within our own network.
Yeah.
They didn't have to go to 50 different publishers. They could go to one source, and we could place it with 50 different publishers. Now, I wasn't able to do that with NEMA, but I have been able to do that with my own agency. And then part of that was bringing all of these movers and shakers in LGBT media under my roof as an advisory board so that I can leverage that 150 years plus experience in LGBT media when I'm talking to brands and agencies. And that's what needs to happen. In order for them to take us seriously, we have to band together. We have to band together. Now, here's the thing. COVID-19 for some has been catastrophic. But for me, it is a fertile ground of opportunity. And that's what I'm trying to take advantage of. I will tell you that the landscape is shifting in such a way. A speech that I gave a year or so ago talked about how print used to be the head thing, used to be the big thing, and digital was sort of like your added value you gave to advertisers. That paradigm is shifting now, where digital offerings, whether it's websites, social media, influencer, programmatic, network, it doesn't matter, is now lead, and print is becoming the added value. Mm-hmm. Look at Gay Star News imploded, and they're gone. Out and Advocate are in serious trouble. Frontiers imploded and went away.
They'll kill me if I don't jump in. Gay Star News is back now.
They are. Did they find a buyer?
Yeah. The people that own Lad's Bible.
Okay, but the thing is that is the volatility of our industry.
Yeah.
And COVID, what's going to happen is there are going to be those of us that took advantage of those opportunities and kept our heads about us are going to survive. Others are going to combine, and we're going to see a fundamental shift in the landscape of LGBT media.
Yeah. At worst, and which would be tragic, is a loss of such a great sway of it that you can never really get true reach again. It's bare boned at the moment. If you look at it compared to any other demographic, in the UK, there's 5.8 million LGBTQ plus by the last census. It's probably more now, but that's the number that they have. There's only 68 million people in the UK. That's a good percentage of the population of the UK, We've already said about the consumer spend, but actually the media within how many there is in the UK, there's about 12 publications. 12 publications to reach 6 million people.
That's right. We should be rolling in the dough, quite frankly. Yeah. We fought so hard for mainstream that now they can put gay content in Time Magazine or Good Housekeeping or Vogue or wherever. So we have the unintended consequence of not being special, and so we have to compete now with those mainstream magazines, and they have.
There's an answer to that, though. Time Magazine can stick a piece of content that's LGBT, but Time Magazine isn't LGBT. Now, brands, I don't know what it's like in the US, and when it comes to sort of the rules around digital advertising, you're a bit more Wild West than we are. We've got GDPR. You cannot target a person for race, religion, or sexual orientation. It is against the law. You can get 10 years in jail for it. So no brand or agency will ever do that. So the only way that you can have an LGBT content and reach LGBT people with that piece of creative is in contextual media, i.e., you take your same-sex creative and you stick it in a same-sex publication. That's the only way. You can't. So even though Time Magazine has got, that one article in the last 1,000 is LGBT, no brand can actually just stick an advert aimed at LGBT people around that article, because that would be targeting someone because you've decided they must be LGBT to read that one. You would have to stick the same ad on the whole of Time Out. Otherwise, you'd be breaking GDPR. Now, nobody wants that wastage because only the people reading the LGBT article are actually the consumers that you were looking for. So the only other place to get, to have minimum wastage on a media spend is in LGBT media. If you've got creative, like I don't know if you've seen many of the ads here lately, but Starbucks just did a transgender one, name on the cup. It was unreal. And then for that to really reach, for them to put media spend to reach the community, they could only do that in LGBT media. So I think LGBT media will always have not its place, because it doesn't have its place. Its place is as high as any other bloody publication here, on your side of the pond or on our side of the pond. It's a demographic. It has media that represents that demographic, just like Black community has media that represents the Black community, and the disabled community or the disability community have media that represents the disability community. We all want to have people that are like us telling us about, things that are of interest to our community. So LGBT media should never go. And the fact that other people are writing about LGBT things should never really detract from the spend in LGBT media. But yeah, I think it's improving. I'm going to say, especially on our side of the pond, it's improving a lot. Unilever and GSK and L'Oreal and Google all now give a particular slice of their yearly budget is just for diversity media. And that budget is in the millions now. So they think of it, think of our community as a real demographic now. Loads of other companies should be doing it. Loads of other brands should be. They're slowly getting there now that Unilever's doing it a lot more. Governments, COVID-19 has changed the whole mindset of governments at the moment. And I think that's going to stick for a while. Low-skilled workers, people that look like me, Black, mixed ethnicity people that drove buses, cleaned the streets, were called low-skilled workers, low-paid workers 2 months ago. Now they're called key workers.
Oh, interesting.
2 months ago in the UK, if you drove a bus and you were Black, you were called a low-paid worker. You were categorized as a low-paid worker. Advertisers didn't want to come near, not really. They were after ABC1. But no, he's a low-paid worker. She's a low-paid worker. Now in the UK, bus drivers, street cleaners, nurses, doctors were always high-paid, but nurses, all these jobs that were looked down on are now called key workers. We've got it on out of home. Every brand is talking about thank you to the key workers for saving our lives. It's everywhere. The mindset of everything in the UK has shifted now to key workers. We're running a campaign at the moment, one for the government, but we're running one for Great Northern Rail, aimed in LGBT media. So you'll see it in most of the media publications, and it's just saying thank you to the key workers. Nobody's I've started to brand advance 2 years ago, and nobody has run a campaign saying thank you to us before. Like, they've said a campaign, can you come and buy our stuff? Or a campaign, can you please tell your friends to come and buy our stuff? But they've never just said thank you for being.
So it sounds like you over in the UK, you guys have a different mindset. But here in the United States, and I can tell you, I'm pretty connected to almost every publication in the country.
Yeah.
I don't see governments or big brands taking out ads in LGBT publications, thanking them for their contribution to the economy. $986 billion economic impact, according to Community Marketing Insights. In most cases, I believe we carry the dips in the economy because we spend whether the economy's well or not. Yeah. And I also think, by the way, that LGBT travelers are going to lead the way out of the LGBT travel slump. And every that I've seen and every article that I've read corroborates that. Domestic travel, especially, is going to have a pent-up demand, and then more international travel will follow behind. But both will be led by the LGBT travel. And so we should be out there educating these brands and agencies. Like, you need to be positioning yourselves, because two things. One is our community remembers who was loyal to us. So we're going to remember whether or not you supported us during this crisis. And if you didn't market to us, you didn't care about us to market to us, we're going to remember that going forward. And I'm going to continue to publicly hold these brands and agencies accountable by saying, this is what you need to be doing. We will remember this. So that's one thing. We don't have that yet. We don't have any sort of national brand, not even Big Pharma, which was a lot of print publications built their businesses on Gilead's ads for Truvada, and they stopped print advertising altogether and went to television, which makes no sense to me. You know, why would you spend $75 million to reach an audience of which maybe 10 to 14% is your target? You know, so the other 85% is just wasted money.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the mindset. That is unfortunate, the mindset. And so I think that until we get together and have a powerful voice, not just a whole bunch of, you know, belly aching by local publishers, but a powerful voice advocating for that, I think that will be ignored. I think we'll continue to get ads and advertising in during Pride, and they think that checks off the box and they can move forward. That is, that is key. So that's why I've been following what you're doing and how you're educating these brands and these brands through your agency to help them understand that we're consumers 12 months out of the year, not just one.
Yeah.
We have value because we have the economic power. We just don't know how to wield it yet. That's the key. We don't know how to wield it yet, and we're quickly learning. And that's what I'm trying to educate our industry about. So let's talk about, let's segue off. I want to talk a little bit about when you get in front of a brand, right? Let's say a Unilever, you get in front of a Unilever, and what is your conversation like? You know, they want diversity. Like I told you, many CBBs want diversity, but they have no idea how to do it. So how do you?
Yeah. Well, let's work backwards. So with Unilever, we help Unilever buy media in 81 countries. So that's what we currently do with Unilever. And that's across the whole spectrum of diverse communities. Now, I'm trying to think what the original, I know what, okay, this is how we won Unilever. I was in Cologne. I was with a guy who's the head of global media. He's my mate, but he's the head of global media for GSK, so you're Pharma. And we went over. I'm now on a task force for the World Federation of Advertisers, so I'm part of their diversity task force thing. But this was the first time I ever spoke on their behalf. I went to Cologne to Mexico and spoke on stage in front of all the CMOs and blah, blah, blah at the WFN. Put up that slide, the slide you were talking about earlier about, you know, everybody, but I was a bit more direct. I was like, here's two pictures. One was my son, Jerome. One was my daughter, Kyra. I said, there's my mixed race son, and there's my white daughter. Blah, blah, blah. I told them about Iraq and Afghan and all of that. Got to the end and I said, well, do you know what hurts more than getting blown up? Because I got blown up in Iraq and I was in a coma for 8 weeks. And then woke up and I was back in the UK. And that's the story of how it came out that I was gay. There's a bit more to it, but that's it in a nutshell. So I got to that slide. So I just told this life story about getting blown up. And then I was like, but you know what hurt more than getting blown up? This slide. And put the slide up that said the Vice Media did a report and found that the words black, gay, lesbian, interracial are blocked more than the words rape, murder, gun, knife, you know. And I went, and that hurt more. You know, I was in a coma for 8 weeks from the first explosion, but to just see that, to see that people sat here, you know, leaders of brands from all, like there was the CMO of MasterCard was there, P&G, Unilever, blah, 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 my mate Jerry from GSK. And I just said it straight, just like, how can you send a list? How can you come here and talk about diversity and pat us black CEOs or LGBT people on the back and say, oh, well done for, you know, founding a company that's helping us do better? It's patronizing when you were going back to the office and signing off a keyword block list that has the word bloody gay and black in it. Like, such mundane words. They are not bad words. You know what I mean? Rape is a bad word. Sorry, I don't know if I'm meant to say this on the podcast. Let me choose another word. Murder is a bad word. You know? But you've got black and gay and lesbian higher. I think lesbian is one of the most blocked words in the world, actually. I think it's number 2 or number 3 on an average time, you know, when COVID and the world has actually not stopped spinning. But yeah, so I sort of challenged him, and then his name's it's not Jerry D'Angelo. He's the head of global media for Unilever. He basically stood up and got on the stage, sort of gate crashed a little bit, and said, "Are you telling me that Unilever blocks these words in all of our countries? Because Unilever's tagline is a brand for good. I mean, they sell everything. Everything that you've got in a shop, in your house is sold by Unilever." But he said, "Do we do this?" Yeah, of course you do. Your yearly budget is 7.4 billion. That's how much they spend on advertising a year. And you block all these words. They're in your top 10. And that's, oh, go on, sorry.
Find that out. How did you confirm that?
What, that they block it or that everybody blocks it?
They block it, or everyone, both.
Everybody, because the ASA and Vice Media had both released statements, and Pink News, actually. Ben Cohen released a statement about it as well, where he just looked, basically all Vice did was look at the keyword block lists that they'd been sent for the last 2 years, and then checked which words were the most used, and then words, so rose to the top. And that's basically how they figured it out. Really simple. They just, what the brands had sent every time they were running a campaign. And then how I found out that Unilever were definitely doing it was because I worked at Mindshare, and Mindshare have the Unilever account. So yeah, he asked me straight, and a bit like you as a New Yorker, me as a guy from Manchester, black is black and white is white, and grey's a bit in the middle. And if you ask me a question, be prepared for the truthful answer. That's it.
I want to add to this that I don't know if you know this, but I also was in the military for 23 years. I was a pilot. I flew C-4, and I was in the first Gulf War in 1991, and I was at Incirlik in Turkey. That's where I was flying out of, and then I finished my tour over there in Kuwait. And so I'm assuming, because you're much younger than I am, that you were in the second Gulf War.
Yes. Yeah. I went there, and first time was in 2003, and then the second time to Iraq was in 2003. Then I went to Afghanistan in 2005, and then I went to Iraq and got blown up in 2006. Yeah.
So so that's another thing too, is the way I approach things is from a military viewpoint. Is I look at things and I create a strategy. I execute my strategy. Here's the thing that I find fascinating by what you're saying is, one is that a brand such as Unilever did not know that they were doing, and what it tells me is that it's just institutional, right? It's sort of like, oh, it's so big, it's buried, nobody really said anything, so therefore it just kept going. So it is incumbent upon us, I think, and people like us, to point that out and change. And that conversation with Unilever by you could have altered the direction of how they reach their demographic. Listen, how would you like to market women's wear to women, but then block the word woman?
Here's one on that. So we work with Diageo, the global alcohol brand, right? Diageo spend $5 million a year advertising frozen cocktails on the internet. So they spend $5 million a year on pushing to content, adverts for frozen cocktails, because they're Diageo. Diageo also, their third on their block list, their keyword block list, it used to be 30,000 words. Now it's about 12,000 words. The third word on the list is Frozen, because it's the biggest kids movie in the world. And so for an alcohol brand, it cannot associate itself with a kids movie. So they block the words frozen because it's a kids movie. But they spend $5 million a year on advertising to people that might be interested in frozen cocktails. But an article about frozen cocktails could never have a Diageo ad around it because they blocked the word frozen. Do you know what I mean? There's so many, and that's one I know, you know, but there are millions of these contradictions. These are clever people. These are Mark Ritson, you know, like these are clever bloody people. But I think a lot of the time it's not intelligence. It's not ignorance even. Let me retract that. Sometimes it is ignorance, you know, but it's just, you just said it. It's the status quo. No one's ever questioned it. No one's ever stood and said, why are you blocking me? I am a consumer. I have money. I live in the center of London. I can go and buy whatever the bloody hell I want. So why are you blocking me? Do you not want my custom? And actually, you know, you've already said it as well, is we are one of the best consumers on God's earth. We always want to look the best. We drink too much. We eat a lot. We socialize a lot. You know, like, yeah, you know, you were saying about travel. We will be the first fearless because only 60 years ago in your home city, they were marching up a street, you know, being fearless. So only 60 years since then, you know, the world is still a crappy place with, you know.
But here's the thing. And you make a good point, this is what is so important. Until we demand a seat at the table, until we demand it, we're not going to get it.
No.
Because of institutional bigotry, institutional racism, institutional, whatever you want to call it. It is just ingrained in their psyche. And it's not as though they're, in a lot of times, purposefully perpetuating that. It is just deep down below the surface, and they're not thinking about it. And so until we take the initiative and point out, like you just said, you know, why are these words blocked? And the guy from Unilever got on the stage and said, are we doing this? I'm sure he doesn't wake up and say, oh, I need to make sure that gay is at the top of the list today. It's just done. And and nobody, it's not at the top of mind. And so, and we have been very apathetic as a community in going after these companies and educating them and saying, whoa, let me see how you're doing business. Why are you, you want to reach the gay market, but you basically put all these roadblocks in. So you're sabotaging your campaign. You are sabotaging your own campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a really good point, and it's something that I'm planning on adding to my narrative. Is part of that education. The other part of it is we're tired of waiting for you to catch up. We want it now. We deserve it now. We make your brands wealthy. We make your brand successful, and yet we're forgotten. Now, maybe not as a consumer, but as a media, especially, we're forgotten. And I'm going to use the example of Gilead, right? Gilead with Truvada.
Mm-hmm.
They built that brand on the backs of gay media to get out the word about that brand. And then very unceremoniously, Christopher, they just dropped us. They just stopped advertising. And the next thing you know, you see Truvada ads on Netflix or on cable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That has got to stop. There's got to be a consequence. There's got to be a symbiotic relationship between brands and an ongoing relationship between brands, because the authenticity that they seek, we have. The market that they seek, we are. We are their market. And we can be great brand partners, not only in programmatic. Programmatic to me is above my pay grade, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. But the direct run of site ads, going directly to a publisher and putting an ad on that publisher's website that has a direct connection to a community that they've served for years and years and years, and they have the trust and authenticity built in. So a brand that goes through an LGBT publisher is going to benefit from having that. that's where I think the communication has fallen down a bit. And that's something that I'm doing my utmost, especially in the United States, to change. You know, we have the power, but we're not doing anything with it. You know, and so I'm hoping that as we continue to educate these brands and agencies, that they will recognize the benefit of working with gay media. As a matter of fact, I just spoke to the campaign chairman of the Biden campaign yesterday, and he was asking me how could they effectively reach the LGBT voter. And I said, listen, I said, just like I said to you, I said, I'm from New York. I'm going to tell you like it is, and I apologize. And if you want to hang up on me, you can. I said, don't fuck up like Clinton did, and don't fuck up like Pete Buttigieg did. You need to build a relationship with LGBT media to get that messaging out if you want them to come out in force during the election. Otherwise, you spend millions of dollars on mainstream media trying to reach the gay community, and you completely I don't even know how much, but it wasn't very much, was spent during the Clinton campaign on reaching LGBT through LGBT media to reach the LGBT voter. Mm-hmm. And we were okay with that. As long as she was elected, we were okay with not being part of the conversation. No editorial content was provided. No interviews were provided. No money was spent in LGBT media, especially print media. That's got to change.
Yeah.
Change. We're an important part of the global community, of our national community, and we're an economic powerhouse on both the national stage and the global stage.
Yeah.
So, and there are precious few agencies like yours, mine, and a couple of others that are out there leading the charge. And we're not really being effective. We haven't been effective for 30 years. And that's what we're trying to change now. I want to speak loudly and forcefully to change the narrative of the way it's been. And people like you, younger people, coming up behind us, that are the people that are going to carry that torch going forward. You know, listen, I'm 59. I don't give two shits about a lot, right? Nobody can hurt me. So I say what I say, and I do what I do, and I'm not an activist, Christopher. Like, you were in the military. I was not out. I didn't come out until I was 40, almost 40, right? Because I could have lost my career as a pilot in the Air Force, you know, after. So I don't have any of that activist history that a lot of these publishers have. So I don't, and maybe it's because I don't have that fear of what people might think of me because of that history, that I'm so bold in so many other ways. I just had a conversation the other day. I got to share it with you really quickly. When I was getting out of the Air Force and retiring, I was like, I just want to be private. I'm a very private person. I don't want to be in the gay community other than to be gay, you know, and live my life and do whatever. Never in a million years would I ever imagine that not only would I be in gay media, but I would be in gay media leadership role in a very public space. And it's uncomfortable for me because it's not familiar, but I'm like, fuck it. You know, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to do the best I can.
Yeah.
Try and make a change, and if I can do that, great. So my whole reasoning in having someone like you on my show is this is one platform that I use to speak that truth. And I try and have people on that add to that conversation, that support that narrative. You, me, and others are in agreement. You know, when I called all the people to be on my advisory board, my first thought was, nobody's going to be on this advisory board. You know, they're all interested in their own things. Of the 12 people that I called, all 12 agreed to be on the advisory board. And do you know Andrea Brianna from Rebel Mouse?
Yes.
She's on my board as well, right? So I had a very lovely chat with her, and she's like, DJ, I'm so excited to be included in what you're doing. It's about time that somebody is creating a catalyst to bring us all together so that we're not all, you know, fighting or acting separately.
Yeah.
Is key. That is, to me, is key. These brands will take notice if we all band together. It doesn't mean we all have to be part of each other's companies, but if we can band together and have those conversations in friendly competition and say, hey, we're working on this. How can we get this brand to take notice? you're doing what you're doing. It sounds like you have some success. I'm doing what I'm doing. I have some success, and others are having a little bit of success. But really what I want to pull all of us together in some way.
Well, I'm in personally anyway. But Brandon Vance, you know, you're right. Whether we're doing a similar thing or not, the world is big enough for the three of us. Gosh, like there's a lot of sorry, go on.
I was making that we don't. It's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And my mother used to say, "I'd rather have part of something than all of nothing."
Yeah.
Thought is why can't we all work together? If you get an account, that's great, and that might open a door for us to get one later on, and vice versa, and so forth. Mm-hmm. But these brands will take notice if they know that we're together,
mm-hmm.
and we're all going towards the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I'm excited about that. So we have let me see here, about 4 minutes to go. So I'm going to give you the last 4 minutes. Tell us more about what you're doing in the future.
Okay. God, I feel on the spot. I'm like, I talk loads, and now you're like, talk. I'm like, no. I'll tell you some interesting stuff that we've just started doing. So, obviously, we've got this platform with a load of publishers on. On top of that, what we've stuck is contextual tagging. So, obviously, we've talked loads about keyword blocking, but also we worked with IBM to build sort of IBM Watson, it's called, and it's basically an AI that can contextual tagging AI. We have that on our platform. So we've built an ad server, and on top of our ad server, we've stuck this contextual platform. So basically, if an article, let's say about COVID, the contextual AI can read the article and say the sentiment of that article is 70% good, i.e., it's got two articles, both about COVID, so it finds that word COVID in there, but actually it finds the word NHS, heroes, saviours in that one, and it finds doubling death, figures, tragedy in that one. They've both got the word COVID, so keyword blocking would block them both. But actually, this AI will read it, figure out its context and its sentiment, and then it will tag one to one and one to the other. So we run that already on our platform, and we just do it so that obviously we don't get given words like black or gay or lesbian to block, but we might get given words like COVID. And if everybody's writing about COVID in LGBT media, then we've technically got nowhere to stick our clients' ads. So we brought this so that we can make sure that we can see the good stuff from the bad, even if it's about, around a certain topic. What our platform, and we're just working with a few partners on this now, means is we can know the sentiment of a community, the Black community, the over 50 community, the Asian community, because we've got so much of their publications on our platform, and because we're tagging every article, and IBM Watson is reading every article and deciding whether that article is a good sentiment or a bad sentiment, we can type in a word and then know the sentiment of the community around that particular subject. And because we're serving ads into these articles, and whenever anybody reads the article, the ad appears. So, as you'll know, you can, even if you're doing run of site, you can target by device or target by geolocation. No cookies really on the person. You don't need to know anything about who's reading it. You're just targeting on where they are. If they're in London, show them this ad. If they're in New York, show them this ad. But what it's actually meant is we can now, and we're working with the British government, because we can see, they give us a word, they say like COVID mobile app, which is this new app that we might all in the UK be made to use so that we can go outside again. And it will tell us if we come into contact with someone who later tests positive for COVID-19. And then it will also log everyone that we've been, and it'll try and track and trace. Everyone gets told to quarantine for 14 days, and that's why they're going to let us outside. Now, we can type COVID mobile app into our system, and because of all the articles that are being written about it, if the LGBT press is writing more positive articles than negative articles, or if in Manchester there's a positive article and a negative article written by both by LGBT publications, but more people are reading the negative one than the positive one, you can start to deduct what a demographic thinks about a certain topic. Do you know what I mean? So we can start to see what people in London compared to people in New York are thinking about COVID-19, because we can see, is the press writing
that information? I mean, how do your clients use that information?
So we use that. So what we'll do is we'll have, at the moment, most of our campaigns have 3 pieces of creative, and depending on the sentiment is what creative will serve. So don't block all COVID campaigns, but if people are reading a COVID mobile app that's a negative sentiment, give them an ad from the government that says, these are the reasons why you should trust it. If it's a positive sentiment, give them an ad that says, well done and thank you for supporting us. Do you know what I mean? Because they're already reading something positive, so they're already there. But if they're reading something negative, what we've also done is we do out-of-home campaigns as well. We've got, like, in the UK, we've got our own LGBT out-of-home network. So we basically got screens in all the LGBT bars across the whole of the UK. And we've launched Out TV on Sky, which is, you've got loads of satellite platforms. We've only got one. It's called Sky. And basically, we've launched Out TV in the UK as well with the team from Out TV. And so what we've done as well is, if we can see the sentiment of what people are reading in a city, and if most people in a certain city are reading negative sentiment articles, we're changing the creative on the screens outside to try and bring the sentiment back up in that city. And if it's a positive sentiment in a city, then we're changing the creative in that city to encourage the continuation of that positive sentiment.
That's awesome and frightening at the same time. That can be discovered and manipulated to foster whatever sentiment that AI wants to get out there. I mean, I love the idea of the technology, but it is frightening for someone, especially my age. Like, wow.
The good thing is it's got nothing to do with following people. It's just an article, So, like before, people are following you right now, and what you type in the internet, somebody's logging it, blah blah blah. That's you personally. You did that. Whereas an article is an article. It's written by a publication. In mainstream media, this wouldn't work. And the reason is because most articles are written not because that's the sentiment of a nation, but for sensation. They want to sell more newspapers, so they write the biggest, boldest article. But in LGBT media, there's a little bit of that. But, it's a bit more community. They write about things that the actual community is thinking, wants to hear about from the viewpoint. And a gay person or an LGBTQ plus person, will own that media and work in that media. And, black people own black media and they write articles for black media, whereas anyone can write an article for the Sun or the New York Times, So it actually gives you an insight into what that demographic is thinking without ever tracking a single person or cookies or anything like that. It's just what the media is writing. And because mainstream or brands and mainstream has ignored all that media for so long, they didn't realize how close to the community it was.
The last point I want to sort of cover, and I want to get your opinion on this, is what do you think is the future of LGBT media and the role of LGBT media in their communities?
I think the future's brighter. I really do. I think all we're going to do, people like you and myself, and then, if we can do something that's transatlantic and really pushing this, we're doing well on this side of the pond. not just in the UK, I mean in the whole of Europe, you know, we buy the media, well, out TV, in all the countries out TV is, and now we sell TV, out of home and digital and radio. I think it's just going to get higher now, you know, in all communities is a lot more on the forefront of brands at the moment. I know you're saying that the US is behind us, but the US also knows that 30% of Chicago is African American, but 73% of people that have died of COVID in Chicago were African Americans. So, you know, it's been more in the press. African Americans have been more in the press. So diversity, hence, has been more in the press. People are thinking about people that don't necessarily look like them or represent them. I think that will seep into the psyche of, and with a little help from gobby people like us, make sure that they take more notice. The future as well, I hope it's more joined up, like we've said, you know. There's a good opportunity at the moment for publications rather than chop. We have a saying, I don't know if you've got it on that side of the pond, but chop your nose off despite your face. Yeah, have you got that? You know, doing something, and I think a lot of media at the moment is either going to group together and survive or chop their nose off despite their face and say, I'm not going to partner with you. I'd rather close my magazine, you know? So I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation over the next year or so, because people will be worried that this could come back. Like, did you ever, this is a movie. This is Netflix Contagion. Like, do you know what I mean? Central Park has got people with white bloody sheets lay over them. Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Well, the only thing missing from this whole thing are zombies.
Don't say it. Like, honestly, there's nothing I don't think can happen at this moment. Like, everything's possible. I've never thought, you know, you said you're a bit older than me. I never thought the world would stop spinning. Actually stop. Everywhere. All at once. In a week.
Never thought in my lifetime, and I've seen a lot, I never thought I'd see in my lifetime a global economy come to a screeching halt.
Like,
and you know, driving through downtown Chicago a few days ago, no cars, no people. You know,
yes.
It reminded me of that movie with Will Smith, I Am Legend.
Yes, love it.
So I'm
waiting for the second one.
And I'm just, you know, nobody knows what to do. I'm hoping that the economy opens, and this is another reason why, Christopher, that I think that you're right. Either we're going to cut our noses off to spite our face, and they're going to just drop like flies. But there are some, and I include myself in that group, who are looking for strategic alliances to sort of come out of this stronger. Yeah. And I'm giving up my individuality as a company to say, hey, let's work together. So I say to you, is after this show, we should connect, talk about ways that we can bridge the gap between the UK and the US and what we're doing here. Because we're leading the way here. I don't think we're as far ahead as you are in what you're doing, but we're putting together a very strong team that I think will enable us to have that. And wouldn't that be a great thing? Yeah,
100%. I'm in.
All right. Well, listen, we've been talking to Christopher Kenna, the CEO of Brand Advance. It's been a great pleasure, Christopher, to finally meet you. I look forward to meeting you in person sometime soon. Sure, we'll cross paths. We can, you know, leave our apartments and actually go outside and do business. Time to be on the show. It was a pleasure.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Zoe, for having me.
Take care now, all right?
You can find all of the episodes of the DJ Doran Show on our website, djdoran.com, or on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Deezer, CastBox, and Podomatic, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes as they are available, and be sure to follow the DJ Doran Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.